I'm already saying goodbye, not with tears, not with drama, but with every breath that feels softer than the last. My time is slipping through my fingers like sand, and before I go, I need you to hear this, really hear it. Because what I've lived, what I've learned, it's not just memory, it's a message, one you may not understand today, but one day it might save you. So don't look away, don't scroll past. This voice, it's fading, and this may be the last chance to let it reach you. My name is Lillian May Parker, and I'm 89 years old. Most of the people I once shared this life with are gone now. Their voices live only in old letters and the corners of my mind. I don't move like I used to. I don't remember things as clearly. But one thing is crystal clear. I'm on my way out. There's a softness in my steps, a quiet in my bones that tells me the end is near. And strangely, I'm not afraid. I've made peace with it. But before I go, I want to give something to you. Not gifts or answers, but truth. Raw, quiet, lived truth. I've carried it with me for years, tucked between birthdays, heartbreaks, long nights, and quiet mornings. And now, as I slowly say goodbye to the world I've loved and lost, I want to pass it on. Maybe you'll forget my name, maybe you'll never see my face. But if you remember my voice and what it's trying to tell you now, that'll be enough. It didn't come with a diagnosis. There was no dramatic fall, no sudden collapse. Just a moment, quiet and still, when I looked out the window and realized the world was starting to move without me. I was sitting in my usual chair, the one by the corner with the worn cushion and the crooked lamp, watching the afternoon light stretch across the floorboards. Everything looked the same. But inside me, something had shifted. A knowing. Not a fear, not even sadness. Just the quiet certainty that I was running out of time. It's hard to explain, especially to those who haven't reached this chapter yet. But when your body begins to soften into stillness, when your thoughts stretch longer before they land, when your memories become more vivid than your present, you feel it. You feel that the pages are thinning, that the end of the story is not far. And in that moment, I stopped pretending otherwise. I exhaled, really exhaled, and whispered to no one, I know. Since then, I've noticed things I used to overlook. The sound of my breath in the quiet room, the faint echo of the house settling after dark, the bird song that seems more urgent now, like even the robins are trying to finish their songs before the season changes. My hands, once busy and quick, now move slowly with intention. And though my body is more tired each day, my awareness is sharper than it's ever been. I'm awake in a way that feels holy, awake to the fading. I no longer plan for the future like I once did. I used to make grocery lists for the week, think about the next season's flowers, imagine next Christmas. Now I live in shorter frames. Tomorrow, if I wake. Next hour, if I'm still here. That might sound bleak, but it's not. It's honest. And strangely enough, it's also peaceful. There's a kind of freedom in knowing your time is precious, that each breath, each moment of clarity, is a gift to be held with both hands. I told my daughter the other day, I think I'm getting ready. She looked confused. For what, Mom? She asked with a nervous laugh. I didn't answer right away. How could I tell her that I wasn't talking about sleep or a nap or a doctor's appointment? I was talking about leaving, about the slow, invisible steps I've begun to take toward the edge. Not in despair, not in pain, just with quiet readiness. There's a softness to this stage of life, a humbling, a narrowing. You begin to understand what matters and what never did. You begin to let go of the need to be remembered perfectly. You just want to leave something true behind, a word, a whisper, a glimpse of what life meant to you. That's why I'm speaking now. That's why I'm telling you this, because I don't know how many more mornings I'll get to watch the light stretch across these floors. But I know that I've lived, I've loved, I've failed and tried again. And I want you to know, If you ever feel this moment coming, if your soul begins to whisper, "It's time," don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it speak. Let it soften you. That's what I'm doing now. And somehow, it feels like the bravest thing I've ever done. For most of my life, "I'm fine" was my answer to everything. Stubbed feelings? I'm fine. Sleepless nights filled with worry? I'm fine. Loneliness that sat beside me at the dinner table? Still, I'm fine. It became my shield, my script, the phrase I stitched into every crack in my spirit. And no one questioned it, because I said it with a smile. Because that's what women like me were taught to do, to carry the weight and never let it show. But something changed when I began to feel the nearness of the end. It wasn't a sudden epiphany. It was a slow unwrapping, like layers of armor loosening, one by one. I would sit with someone I loved, feel the ache in my chest to be real, to be seen, and the words would still try to rise. "I'm fine." But they caught in my throat. They didn't feel honest anymore. They felt like lies I had outgrown. It wasn't that I wanted to burden anyone. I didn't want pity or dramatic gasps. I just wanted to be known. And for that, I had to stop hiding behind that tired phrase. So I started saying things like, "I feel a little lost today," or "I'm afraid they've all forgotten me," or sometimes just, "I'm lonely." And let me tell you something, the world didn't collapse. No one turned away. In fact, they leaned in. Eyes softened, hands reached for mine. That simple, terrifying choice, to be honest, built more connection in a single sentence than all my years of pretending ever did. I regret how long it took me to get here. How many birthdays I smiled through while quietly aching. How many dinners I cooked while my soul was starving for someone to ask how I really was. And how many times I told myself I was strong for keeping it all inside, when in truth, I was just afraid no one would stay if I spoke my truth. But now that I'm closer to the end, I've discovered something powerful. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's an offering, a way of saying, "Here I am," even if it's messy. And more often than not, it invites others to do the same. When I stopped saying "I'm fine," people began to tell me their truths too, their fears, their doubts, their losses. We met somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter, somewhere real. So if you're still wearing that phrase like armor, I gently ask you, what would happen if you laid it down just for a moment? What would happen if you told the truth about your heart, even if your voice shook? You might be surprised at what comes back to you, because at the end of your life, you won't remember the days you held it all together. You'll remember the days someone looked at you, saw the truth behind your eyes, and stayed. That kind of love doesn't come from, "I'm fine." It comes from letting yourself be known, even when it's hard, especially then. It was late, one of those long, stretching nights where the silence in the house feels almost too loud. I couldn't sleep. I hadn't been able to, not really, for days. My body was tired, my thoughts heavier than usual. So I got out of bed, wrapped myself in my old shawl, and sat by the window. The moon was full, bathing everything in a soft, silver quiet. And it was there, in the stillness of that moment, that I finally told myself the truth. Not out loud. I don't think I had the strength for that. But inside, deep, deeper than I'd allowed myself to go in years. I let the truth rise up from the places I had locked it away. The truth about who I had been, about what I had lost, about the things I did and didn't do. I sat there, wrapped in my own breath and memory, and let the weight of my life settle without resistance. And for the first time in a long, long while, I didn't look away from it. There were things I had hidden even from myself. Truths I didn't want to name, about the resentment I carried for never putting myself first, about the way I let fear dress up as loyalty, about the dreams I buried in the name of duty. And yet, there was no bitterness in that moment, just a softness, like I was finally holding myself, not as a failure, not as a disappointment, but simply as a woman who did the best she could with what she had, even when she didn't know how. That night, I forgave myself. quietly, without ceremony. I forgave the girl who thought love meant shrinking. I forgave the young mother who snapped when she was exhausted. I forgave the older woman who stayed silent when she should have spoken up. I didn't make excuses. I didn't need to. I simply told the truth and let it rest between me and the moonlight. You see, there are truths you can only tell yourself when the world is asleep, when no one's watching, when you're not performing strength or joy or grace. That night wasn't about shame or regret. It was about release. It was about meeting myself at the edge of life and saying, I see you, I still love you, and I'm not leaving you behind. If you're holding things in your heart that feel too heavy to say aloud, I want you to know, there's power in telling the truth, even if it's just to yourself. Especially then. The truth doesn't have to be beautiful. It just has to be real. And sometimes, in the quiet of an ordinary night, it can become the very thing that sets you free. I went back to bed that night feeling lighter, not because anything changed, but because I finally stopped pretending. And in that honesty, I found peace. Maybe not forever, but enough to rest. And sometimes, that's all we need. I wasted so much time worrying about things that never really mattered. Not in the end. Not in the quiet rooms I sit in now. I used to obsess over what people thought of me, whether I was doing enough, saying the right thing, keeping up with the standards I thought were expected. I worried about wrinkles before they came, about money when I already had enough, about what to wear to places I didn't even want to go. I lost sleep over dishes left in the sink and conversations that didn't end perfectly. And now, looking back, all of that feels like smoke, light, meaningless, and already gone. I remember once crying in the bathroom because someone made a comment about how tired I looked. I carried that with me for days, adjusting how I smiled, how I stood, afraid of being seen the wrong way. But I can't even remember that person's name now. Isn't that something? We hand out so much of our peace to people who forget us. I worried about being liked, about being approved of. I spent years smoothing my edges, softening my voice, avoiding conflict, thinking that made me kind. But kindness isn't the same as erasing yourself. I wish I had known that earlier. I wish I had spent more time worrying about how I felt, how I loved, how I lived, instead of how I appeared. And the biggest thief of all? I worried about time. I always felt behind, rushed, like life was a checklist and I was falling short. Marriage, career, children, retirement. And then what? You reach a certain age and realize that none of it came with the peace you thought it would. The milestones pass, and you're still searching, still measuring yourself against some invisible finish line. But there is no finish line, just moments, breath, presence. Now, I worry less. I sit with my tea until it's cold. I don't rush through conversations. I don't look in the mirror and count flaws. I look for softness in my eyes, forgiveness in my face. I don't care if people think I've slowed down. I have slowed down. On purpose. Because the rushing never brought me closer to joy. It only distracted me from it. If you're young, or even just younger than me, I want to tell you this. Most of what you're worrying about now won't matter in the end. Not your weight, not your schedule, not whether everyone likes you. What will matter is whether you were kind, whether you loved, whether you let yourself be loved, whether you showed up for the people who mattered even when it was inconvenient. That's the kind of thing that echoes, that stays. So stop wasting time on the things that will fade. Save your energy for what fills you. Let go of appearances. Let go of control. Let go of trying to win a race that was never yours to run. You have nothing to prove, only a life to live. And it's already happening, right now, in this breath. There's something I never said to the people I love, not because I didn't feel it, but because I assumed they already knew. I thought it showed in the dinners I made, in the clean clothes folded just right, in the way I remembered birthdays and kept traditions alive. I believed my love was obvious, visible, that it lived in the details. But now, as the years have grown thinner and the silence is longer, I find myself wondering, did I really say it enough? I don't just mean I love you. Those words, yes, they're powerful, but they become routine if not wrapped in truth. What I mean is this: I never told them why I loved them. I never told my daughter that I saw her strength when she held herself together for her own children, how I admired her in moments I never said out loud. I never told my son how proud I was of the way he softens when no one is looking, how gentle he is with people who are hurting. I never told them that even when I was tired, even when I snapped, even when I felt distant, they were the best thing that ever happened to me. I let too much go unsaid because life always felt busy. There was always something to do: groceries, work, holidays to prepare. I thought we had time. I thought love could wait until the right moment, the perfect pause in the noise. But there's never a perfect pause. Just moments that slip by, one after the other, until you're left with only the echoes of what you meant to say. I think about that now, late at night especially. I replay memories not just for comfort, but to revisit all the things I didn't say. I want to go back and stand in those kitchens, sit in those cars, lay in those quiet bedtime rooms and say it clearly. Not just, I love you, but I see you, I respect you, I learn from you. I am so deeply grateful for you. I know they know I love them, but did they know they were my joy? My reason for fighting through the hard days? Did they know that their laughter healed me? That their presence made me feel safe in ways I never knew how to describe? I hope so. I pray so. If you're reading this and there's someone in your life you love, tell them. Not just with actions, though those matter, but with words. Say the things you think they already know. Spell them out. Speak them clearly. Leave no doubt. Because when you're where I am now, the silence left behind by unsaid love is the loudest sound in the room. Don't wait for a holiday. Don't wait for the perfect timing. Say it now. Say it often. Say it even if your voice shakes. Because when the people we love are gone, or when we're the ones leaving, the only thing that truly matters is whether they knew how deeply they were loved. Forgiveness is a strange thing. We're taught it's something we offer when someone comes to us, broken and apologetic, ready to make things right. But real life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the apology never comes. Sometimes the person who hurt you doesn't even know, or worse, doesn't care. And still the wound lingers, like a splinter under the skin. That's what happened to me. There's someone in my life, someone I loved once, deeply, who left a scar I carried for decades. Not a physical one, but the kind that changes the way you see yourself. They said things that made me feel small, invisible, like my voice didn't matter. And for years, I held on to that pain like it was proof of what I had endured. I didn't speak of it, but it shaped the way I moved through the world. I was careful with people. I kept pieces of myself hidden. I became good at protecting myself, even from those who meant well. I waited a long time for an apology, for some recognition of the harm that was done, but it never came. The years passed, and the silence between us grew wider. And I thought, this is just how it ends. Me carrying the weight, them unaware. But then something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. Just a quiet moment one afternoon when I looked in the mirror and realized I was tired. Not just in my body, but in my spirit. Tired of the weight. Tired of giving that person power over my peace. So I sat down and wrote a letter I never intended to send. I poured it all out, the hurt, the confusion, the way their absence shaped my presence. I let myself feel everything I had buried. And then, at the end, I wrote 3 simple words. I forgive you. Not because they deserved it, but because I did. Forgiving them didn't mean what they did was okay. It didn't erase the pain, but it unchained me from it. It gave me back the pieces of myself I had let that pain control. I was no longer waiting for them to set me free. I did it myself. And in that space, I found something I never expected: compassion. I saw them not as the villain in my story, but as a human being, flawed, limited, likely hurting in ways I'll never understand. That didn't excuse them, but it softened something in me, and that softness brought peace. If you're waiting for an apology to begin healing, I gently ask you, what if the healing could begin now? What if forgiveness isn't a gift you give to them, but a release you give yourself? You deserve lightness. You deserve rest. You deserve to close the chapter, even if the other person never turns the page. I've carried many things in this life: grief, joy, love. But the day I chose to forgive, without permission, without apology, was the day I began to carry myself again. And that freedom, it was worth everything. What I miss the most now aren't the big milestones. Not the birthdays or the anniversaries, or even the grand vacations we used to plan years in advance. Those were beautiful, yes, but they live in photographs now. No, what I miss are the small, quiet things. The things I never thought to treasure while they were happening. The things I assumed would always be there. I miss the sound of the front door closing at the end of the day, signaling that someone I love had made it home safely. I miss the weight of my husband's hand resting absent-mindedly on the small of my back while we washed dishes together. I miss the scattered shoes by the door, the hum of conversation in the next room, the clinking of a spoon in a coffee mug before the sun had even risen. I miss being needed in the small ways, being asked where the scissors were, or what time the movie started, or if I remembered that favorite recipe from childhood. I miss hearing someone call out, "Mom," or "Grandma," just to make sure I was still nearby. It was easy to brush those things off at the time, to get annoyed at the clutter, the noise, the interruptions. But now, I would give anything to be interrupted. You don't realize how holy the ordinary is until it's gone. You think life is built on the big events, but it's not. It's made of the soft socks folded in drawers, the smell of toast in the morning, the way the couch cushions sink just a little where someone always sat. It's made of the sounds, the smells, the familiar patterns you only start to notice when the house goes quiet. And now that it's quiet, I find myself listening for those echoes. Sometimes I swear I still hear footsteps in the hallway, or the rustle of a coat being hung. It's not haunting, not sadness, just memory, gentle memory, and gratitude, because I got to live it. I got to be in the middle of that beautiful mess, even if I didn't always appreciate it while it was happening. If you're in the thick of it now, with kids running around, or a partner who snores, or a life that feels too full and too fast, I hope you'll pause, just for a second, breathe it in, look around. These are the moments you'll ache for one day. These are the quiet miracles that shape a life. I'm not asking you to stop everything. Just notice. Smile at the chaos. Hug someone a little longer. Say yes to sitting on the couch together, even if there's laundry to fold. Because someday, when your home grows still and your days stretch wide, it won't be the grand occasions you reach for. It'll be the ordinary days, the ones you didn't realize were the most extraordinary of all. When I was younger, I had a very clear idea of what mattered. Success, appearances, being the one who had it all together. I chased approval like it was oxygen, from family, from friends, from people who barely knew me. I believed if I could just be good enough, organized enough, agreeable enough, then everything would fall into place. That was what mattered, I thought. That was the map to a good life. But here, near the end, with far more time to look back than forward, I see it differently. What I thought mattered, didn't. And what I overlooked? That was where the meaning lived. I spent years trying to prove myself, in ways no one asked me to. I said yes when I wanted to say no. I cleaned a spotless house so people would think I was managing fine. I wore the right clothes to the wrong places. I held my tongue in rooms that needed truth. I didn't realize that perfection builds distance, that people can't love the version of you that's always edited. They need to see your cracks, your struggle, your softness. I worried too much about being respected, and not enough about being real. I measured myself by things that vanish, numbers in a bank account, compliments from strangers, ticking boxes on invisible lists. I thought if I kept everything under control, I could avoid pain. But the truth is, control doesn't protect you from grief, or loneliness, or regret. It only keeps you from connection. And what actually mattered? The quiet things. The long talks on the porch at dusk. The way someone reached for my hand when I was anxious. The belly laughter at the wrong moment. The child's drawing stuck to the fridge for years. The Sunday afternoon spent doing nothing in particular, but feeling full anyway. Those are the memories that still visit me. I used to be so focused on the big picture that I missed the brushstrokes. But now I understand. The brushstrokes are the masterpiece. A life isn't measured by what you built or how many people knew your name. It's measured by how deeply you loved, how many people felt safe around you, how honestly you showed up, and how gently you treated yourself when no one else was watching. So if you're still running, chasing things that shine but don't warm you, I hope you'll pause. Ask yourself, is this filling me or just distracting me? Are these priorities mine, or did I inherit them without question? Because you only get so many days, and not all of them will wait while you figure it out. Let me save you a little time from someone who has lived long and learned slowly. What matters most is how you made people feel, and whether you allowed yourself to feel it too. Everything else fades. But love, presence, truth, those stay. There's a conversation I've never told anyone about, not even my children, not even my closest friend. It wasn't dramatic. There were no thunderclaps, no flashing lights. Just me, alone in my room with the window cracked open and the night air brushing against my face. I couldn't sleep, but it wasn't restlessness that kept me up. It was this growing ache in my chest, not physical, but something deeper, a need to speak. And so, without planning to, I started talking to God. I don't mean praying the way I was taught as a girl, hands folded, reciting words I barely understood. This was different. This was raw. It was the kind of honesty you can only bring to someone who already knows everything about you. I told him I was scared, not of death, but of being forgotten, of disappearing quietly after all this time. I told him I didn't know if I had done enough, loved well enough, forgiven enough. I admitted that sometimes I felt like I had wasted years chasing things that didn't matter, and that now, with time running thin, I wasn't sure who I'd become. I cried. Not loudly. Just soft tears rolling down my cheeks as I whispered things I didn't even know I had been holding. Regrets, doubts, grief I had buried under decades of duty. And I asked questions I knew wouldn't be answered out loud. Did I matter? Did I get it right? Did I leave anything good behind? And then, something happened. Not a voice, not a miracle, but a stillness. A calm so deep it felt like I could finally breathe after holding it for years. I felt, in a way I can't quite explain, that I was being heard. That I wasn't alone in that room. That everything I had carried, all the invisible weights, were being held by something far greater than me. Since that night, I've had other moments like that. Quiet, sacred conversations with someone I can't see, but feel. I don't need anyone else to understand it. I don't even need to explain it. It's mine. A private space between me and the divine, where I can be exactly who I am. No pretending, no apologizing, no fear. I share this now, not to preach, but to offer this. When you feel most alone, when the world is asleep and your thoughts are loud, speak. Even if you don't believe in anything, speak. Let the truth fall from your lips like rain. There's power in naming what aches. There's comfort in releasing it into the quiet. And maybe, just maybe, something, someone, will meet you there, like it did for me. Not with answers, but with peace. And at the end of all things, peace might be the most beautiful gift of all. If I could go back and do it all again, I wouldn't ask for more time. I wouldn't try to change every mistake or avoid every moment of pain. No, what I'd do differently is something much simpler, but far harder. I would love myself sooner. For so many years, I treated myself like an afterthought. I gave kindness to others, but criticism to myself. I stood up for people I cared about, but never once stood up for my own needs. I measured my worth by how much I could give, how quiet I could be, how little space I took up. I told myself that self-love was selfish, that my job was to serve, to support, to sacrifice. And so I did, beautifully, completely, until there was almost nothing left of me for me. It took a long time to realize that the voice in my head wasn't kind, that it echoed every insecurity, every harsh word I'd heard growing up, every unrealistic standard I believed I had to meet. I looked in the mirror and saw someone who was always not enough, not thin enough, not strong enough, not accomplished enough. Even when I did well, I moved the goalpost. Praise made me uncomfortable. Rest felt like failure. And now, in these quiet years, I see it so clearly. I see the woman I was, giving, capable, full of light. And I ache for her. Not because she didn't do enough, but because she never knew she already was enough. I wish I could sit with that younger version of me, take her hand, and say, "You don't have to earn your worth. You were born with it." The saddest part is how much joy I missed because I didn't believe I deserved it. I turned down experiences, hid parts of myself, stayed small in rooms where I should have stood tall. I waited for someone else to validate me, not knowing that the only permission I ever needed was my own. If you're reading this and still struggling to believe that you are worthy, I want you to hear me clearly. You are. Not because of what you do, or how well you perform, or how perfectly you love others, but simply because you are here, breathing, trying, existing in a world that is too loud and too fast and too harsh on those with soft hearts. Don't wait as long as I did. Don't wait until the final chapters to finally turn inward and say, "I matter." Start now. Practice gentleness with yourself. Forgive your mistakes. Celebrate your small wins. Look in the mirror and speak kindness into your own eyes. Because when you get to the end, and I'm closer to that end than I've ever been, the greatest regret isn't what others did to you. It's what you never allowed yourself to feel. And loving yourself, truly, deeply, unapologetically, might just be the most important thing you ever do. There were so many times in my life when I felt lost. Moments when the path ahead seemed blurry, or worse, invisible. I've stood in kitchens late at night, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound, wondering what I was doing, who I had become, and if I was ever truly seen. I've laid in bed next to someone I loved, feeling more alone than I could admit. I've smiled in rooms where I felt like a ghost, and through it all, I kept going, quietly, carefully, waiting for someone to tell me I was on the right track. No one ever did, not in the way I needed. Because the truth is, no one can hand you a map when the road you're walking is your own. No one can guarantee that the choices you make will lead to peace. We're all just doing the best we can, stumbling through love, work, grief, joy, hoping we'll recognize something familiar along the way. But here's what I've learned, now that most of my road is behind me. When you feel lost, you're not failing, you're simply growing, you're becoming. The moments that feel like unraveling are often just life rearranging itself inside you. Don't be so quick to run from that feeling. Sit with it. Let it teach you. I wish someone had told me that sooner. I spent too many years trying to rush through the uncertainty, to fix it, to hide it. I said I'm fine when I wasn't. I busied myself with tasks to distract from the ache. I tried to be what others needed, thinking that would tether me to something solid. But nothing outside of you can anchor you when your own spirit is drifting. So, here's what I want to offer you. From a woman who has lived a long, layered life. When you're lost, don't panic. Pause. Breathe. Write something down. Sit in a patch of sunlight. Call someone who reminds you of who you are. And above all, speak gently to yourself. Say, "I'm here. I'm still here." That's enough. That's everything. One day you'll look back at the moment that felt like an ending and realize it was a beginning. A soft turning point. A crack where light started to pour in. You'll see that being lost brought you back to something true. Something you couldn't have reached if you'd stayed on the neat, predictable path. And if, in your darkest hour, you hear my voice, even faintly, let it be a hand on your back. Let it remind you, you're not broken. You're just becoming. And one day, someone will be grateful you kept walking, even when you didn't know the way. There's something sacred about saying goodbye. Not the dramatic, tearful kind you see in movies, but the quiet farewells we whisper when no one is around. I've been saying mine in small pieces, not out loud, but in the way I touch my old photo albums a little longer, or the way I breathe in the scent of the house at dawn. I'm not afraid, not exactly. I just know, in my bones, in the rhythm of my heartbeat, that my story is nearing its final page. And I want to turn that page with grace, not regret. I've come to believe that goodbyes aren't always about leaving people. Sometimes they're about releasing parts of yourself, versions you've outgrown, dreams you've set down gently, pain you've finally made peace with. I've been doing that lately, letting go of the need to be strong all the time, letting go of the idea that I had to hold everything together, letting go of the illusion that I missed my chance to matter. The truth is, I did matter, in ways I couldn't always see. In the meals I cooked with love, the bedtime stories told 100 times, the arms I opened even when my heart was tired. I mattered in the quiet moments. And if you're reading this, you matter too, even if no one's ever said it in words. So here I am, not with a grand finale, but with a soft bowing of the head, a whispered thank you to this life, for the laughter, the pain, the beauty I didn't always recognize, for the people who came and went, for the ones who stayed, for the days I wanted to give up but didn't, for every sunrise I got to witness, and every night I survived. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Life is not meant to be conquered. It's meant to be felt. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself be messy, joyful, uncertain, alive. Say the things you're afraid to say. Love wildly, even if it scares you. Rest when you're tired. Apologize when you're wrong. And forgive yourself for needing time. I won't be here much longer. But that doesn't make this moment any less valuable. In fact, it makes it more. Because I still have this breath. I still have these words. And maybe, just maybe, they'll find a place in your heart and stay there when I'm gone. So I leave you with love, with permission to live fully, and with the hope that someday, when you reach your own final chapter, you'll look back, not with fear, but with the soft, peaceful knowing that you truly lived. If this story stayed with you, even just for a moment, let it live a little longer by clicking like. And if you believe voices like hers should never be forgotten, subscribe to the channel. Not every goodbye is loud. Sometimes it's a whisper that finds you when you need it most. Let her words stay with you. Let them remind you what really matters before it's too late.